Am I the a-hole for not accommodating my brother-in-law during my birthday dinner and telling him his taste wasn't my priority? I, 26 female, recently had a birthday. Some family and I went out to dinner to celebrate. The guests were me, my husband, my parents, his parents, my two brothers and sister, and my husband's brother. So here's the deal. My brother-in-law is weird about eating out. He'll only order a burger or fries and chicken nuggets in a food place, no matter how fancy, no matter how much choice there is. He goes so far as not even looking at menus and places and will ask for nuggets and fries by default, and will be very difficult if a place doesn't have those on the menu. I know this, but I won't accommodate it when it comes to something I'm supposed to enjoy. When my husband and I were discussing the dinner, I told him to let his brother know they didn't do burgers or fries at his place. Cool. He still says he's showing up. The dinner arrives. Everybody's looking at the menu except him. He waits, and when we're all ordering, he asks the server for fries and nuggets. He explains they don't have those, and then my brother-in-law asks about a burger. They don't do those either. He asks if they could make up some fries just for him, and the server explains they can't accommodate those. He starts sulking, and my husband makes apologies and says they'll get the final order to them ASAP. Brother-in-law goes off about how crappy it was that I didn't think of him with dinner, and we should have made sure there was something for him to eat. I pointed out he was told and he chose to come, that it was not my job to accommodate for his pickiness when eating out, and that his taste was not a priority during my birthday dinner. Brother-in-law calls me a selfish a-hole and walks off. My mother-in-law tries to excuse his outburst, that he's just hungry, while my father-in-law can't stop apologizing. My husband confronted his brother after, and his brother said he was still pissed at me. My husband said we were the ones that are pissed and had made a scene during my birthday dinner. Their mom is saying I could have been more accommodating. It is only fair to consider guests when inviting them out. On one hand, I'm annoyed that he acted that way, but on the other, I don't want to cause any trouble between us and my husband's family. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You left out the best part. How old is brother-in-law? 30. That changes everything. Your 30-year-old brother-in-law still needs his kiddie meal in every restaurant he goes to no matter what. Might as well have stopped at McDonald's and brought his own Happy Meal. Not the a-hole. Their mom is saying I could have been more accommodating, and it's only fair to consider guests when inviting them out. You did accommodate him by informing him ahead of time that those items weren't available on the menu. You didn't have to do that, because checking the menu should be something he does for himself, knowing that he's so picky. He still chose to come, knowing those items weren't available. That's on him. I'm fairly picky myself and always check the menu before we go someplace new. But I'm not burger, chicken nuggets, and fries only picky. I will wreck some chicken tikka masala and have made it a point to develop my eating habits enough that I can find something off of basically any culture's menu that I can at least nibble on. OP is super not the a-hole. I don't care if your brother-in-law is 6 or 36. This is the dumbest thing I've read. Not the a-hole in any way, shape, or form. Even your husband warning him is hilarious. Your mother-in-law excusing his behavior is hilarious. You're clearly not that a-hole. What a bizarre and embarrassing situation. The family's let this little turd get away with things for too long if they're cuddling him like that. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to allow ex's boyfriend to come to our little Father's Day get-together? Don't know why I, 27 male, should even be asking, but here I am because seems people think I am. My ex and I have a son together, or more like she birthed our son and I care for him because she hasn't been part of his life at all. Before this, back when we were just friends, she had a boyfriend. They broke up. She was looking for a rebound, and we were hooking up for a few weeks. They got back together. She got pregnant, and for 9 months, there was a big question mark for who the dad was. We waited till after she gave birth to find out which one of us it was. During the pregnancy, she changed her mind about being involved and was thinking about adoption. He supported whatever she decided as far as I know. I didn't want to give up my son though after finding out his mine. So we agreed I'd get full custody and she wouldn't be involved except for paying child support, which I don't really use but put that away for him in case it's needed. For the last 7 months of my son's life, her boyfriend has tried reaching out offering to babysit. Take him off my hands. I declined because I didn't need his help, and it's just weird considering he's still with my ex. His insistence has gotten to where I've needed to tell him to back off and let me have my life with my kid. He's not gonna become part of it, and better to just not have contact. He has apologized and all, but then I hear back a couple months later as if nothing happened. Was having like a little barbecue thing for Father's Day at my place. For my friends, my parents, and other family. One friend in particular told him about it and he wanted to come over. A friend gave him a ride to my place and everything. I asked them both to leave right away when they were outside my building. He was just saying he wanted to see my son. And considering that we were both on the same boat a few months ago thinking we were both fathers, it kind of made sense to celebrate Father's Day with my son. But I told him the difference there was that I turned out to be the father and he wasn't. So it really doesn't make sense for him to take part in my barbecue with my family at all. The fact that my friend did this pissed me off so much, so didn't let either of them come. Once they left, I was retelling some of my friends what happened. But they think I'm an a-hole for kicking him out when he was already here, and wouldn't have been a problem letting him hang around. But for me, I don't want him thinking it's okay, or that it means he can be part of our lives in any way. And that was my main reason for shutting that down. It's super weird to me, so that's why I made them leave. But was I an a-hole for doing it? Not an a-hole. He thought he could celebrate Father's Day with you and your kid at a private barbecue because he was almost a father? No, that doesn't make sense. And the friend is also the a-hole. Yeah, that's weird. I get that the boyfriend was probably excited about the prospect and disappointed that he wasn't the father. But that has nothing to do with Opie or his barbecue. I think the boyfriend is not the a-hole, but the child's mother, the ex, is for not stepping in to stop her boyfriend from trampling Opie's boundaries. Not the a-hole, Opie. 100% not the a-hole. As a single mom with trust issues, this is all sorts of red flags. He was cool with giving the baby up when he thought it was his. Now he knows it isn't his and suddenly wants contact? This is creepy as hell. Is there a custody order in place? I'm assuming there is. If not, you need to file for one immediately for full physical and legal custody. If you already have one in place, I will immediately move to telling him that if he continues to try and pursue any type of custody of your child, that you're filing a restraining order. As for your friend that completely disrespected you by bringing some random to your home, I would remind them whose home that is, and tell him he's not allowed to invite anyone without your permission ever. This is a no-brainer in basic decency. Basically, everyone sucks here except for you, Opie. As soon as he started talking about taking kid off your hands, I noped the hell out. Personally, I'd be looking into a no-contact order or whatever the correct legal term for it is. Cause this is sketchy AF. Not a hole. What was he thinking? It was completely inappropriate for him to come to your house. I would have kicked him out immediately. Really, I don't know. Not sure if maybe my friend made him think it would be okay or what. Like, I've made it clear for months he's not going to be around. Now, for the next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my friend's expensive dress which I ruined while I was drunk? I don't drink alcohol at all. No health reasons. I just choose not to since me drinking has resulted in a lot of very impulsive, very bad decisions in the past, so I haven't had a drop for 3 years. My friends know this, and they also know the reason. Now, one of my childhood friends is getting married, and on her bachelorette party, I specifically requested that I only be served virgin cocktails. Nobody objected, and my friend said she covered it with our waiters. Turns out she didn't. And she specifically chose drinks where the juice and energy drink would mask the taste of alcohol. After the 4th round, I realized I'm pretty well buzzed, and she fessed up, saying she just wanted me to be my old fun self for one night. Sadly, my old fun self decided this was reason enough to be impulsive again, and I emptied my red-colored drink on her expensive white dress, which is now ruined. Now, I'm uninvited from the wedding until I apologize and pay for her dress. Since I'm always the one saying that being drunk is never an excuse for your own bad decisions, which is true, and yes, ruining her dress was a heavy overreaction. But since she took the decision of not getting drunk out of my hands, I really don't feel this applies in this situation. All our friends are on her side. Am I the a-hole if I don't pay and just skip the wedding? Edit. The dress in question is not her wedding dress. It's a white cocktail dress that cost her around $200 as I was informed afterwards. Yes, expensive is relative. This is expensive to us. Now for the comments. Not a hole. I strongly believe that if you choose to drink, you are responsible for the consequences. She removed your ability to choose, so has to deal with the consequences of her decision. This, not a-hole. This is the simplest and most concise way to think about it. Like you, I'm not the one to excuse what people do when drunk as though they aren't responsible for their own actions. But in this case, your anger was completely justified. It may have been a little crappy to ruin her dress, but it's not at all on the level of intentionally spiking you with something you specifically told her you didn't want in your body. She violated your consent, and she's the one who should apologize. If you get that apology and feel like it, sure, you could apologize about the dress. But to apologize first would be to concede that her dress is somehow more important than your bodily autonomy, which it is not. I'd suggest not going to the wedding, and maybe not being her friend at all if she can't see she's in the wrong here. Sounds like your other friends are just as bad. Not at a-hole. If this was some random guy giving her drinks with alcohol in them without her consent, then the police would have been called. So she drugged you. Not at a-hole. Yeah, seriously. I'd be so upset with this person for doing that. That's so messed up to spike someone like that. Was it an overreaction? Maybe. Did she deserve it? Absolutely. She violated your consent. I'm voting not at a-hole. And if I'm wrong and you are the a-hole, you are the completely justified a-hole. The a-hole the world sometimes needs. If this destroys the friendship, remember this. She destroyed it when she violated your consent, not when you got alcohol all over her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for being honest with my sister-in-law about why we never host family meals with her family? My husband and I have been together since high school. Married straight out, and we have 3 children together with another on the way. I have known his family a long time. I get along really well with them for the most part. But I will be honest that we have not hosted a family dinner with his family in a very long time. Our reason for this is simple. How much my sister-in-law's oldest 2 children, 11 and 9, eat. These kids have huge appetites. We're talking 3 pieces of chicken with a roast dinner, 2 or 3 helpings of roast potatoes, extra veggies, extra gravy. Between them, they could easily scoff what our household would eat in one meal. They are active, very sporty, and we know this lends itself to it. But it gets expensive, and my sister-in-law and the kids gets pissy when someone doesn't allow them multiple helpings. We have seen issues with her and another sister when the sister said no to thirds for the kids. And if you leave the food on the table for people to take what they want, the kids leave so little for anyone. My other sister-in-law admitted she needs to spend an extra $20 on extra food just for them, and that she struggles to prepare enough food. So my husband and I made a decision that we would not put ourselves in that position. He considered asking her to bring extra food for her kids, but other sister-in-law suggested that before and sister-in-law was pissed. Anyway, my sister-in-law made a few comments about us not hosting before. How we owed everyone some really good dinner. Then a couple of weeks ago, she asked me directly why we never host. I admit I kind of evaded the question with her then. But she brought it up again a few days later, and I was honest. I told her I did not feel we could keep up or afford to accommodate her older 2's appetites, and we knew she felt like it was on the host to provide enough. So we simply didn't. She was pissed. At me and at my husband. She told me I was so rude to say that to her. That I should not blame her kids for our refusal to feed a family. Other sister-in-laws backing me up, and so is my husband. My husband's brother is on sister-in-law's side, and said it's only fair to do it for family and don't ever blame the kids for adult choices. Am I the a-hole? Info. How often was this happening? I have family over maybe once or twice a year. So the idea of an extra $20 expense so infrequently would seem a bit silly to complain about. So I'm assuming your meals are occurring much more frequently? Maybe that's the actual problem. Would it still be a burden to feed these children if they were coming by once every 6 months? I think that also depends on the expectations of what's being served too. Because my sister-in-law insisting that it's time they hosted a nice dinner for everyone, that could easily run up to several hundred to feed a large group of people. Let alone making sure that there are several extra servings for these kids. If we go off the assumption that they want a chicken roast to be served, I'm using this as the example since it's the one Opie gave, we'd need 1 chicken just for those 2 kids, as well as a whole platter of everything else for them. That could easily double or triple the budget, depending on where OP shops and what they're expected to make. One roast chicken can easily serve 4 people dinner. It's not like whole chickens are cheap. Info: how often does sister-in-law host you? Sister-in-law has hosted 3 or 4 times since OP and her husband got married, which I'm guessing is a long time ago. Ding ding ding! If her family eats more, then there's an argument that you should have to host less. But the argument that she should always have to host, so she's spending money on you and you never reciprocate, hardly seems fair. Exactly this. And why can't menus be changed to be more economical? Why have a roast and chicken? Since when are potatoes backbreakers? Yes, I understand even potatoes can be expensive for some people. They are not expensive compared to a roast. Extra gravy? That's just nitpicking. Not day-ho. I think it's time to stop hosting family dinners and have a potluck instead, if our kids have ferocious appetites. This would work with reasonable people, but I've watched people like the sister-in-law bring a bag of chips or some rolls and consider it a fair trade when their household polishes off multiple trays of food. Not day-ho. It's not so much how much they're eating, but that they take most of the food and don't leave enough for other people. That's just poor manners. This sister-in-law needs to feed her little garbage disposals at home before taking them to a meal at someone's house. Yes, I've done it. Had an active teenager who sort of runs for fun and could eat his weight in pasta every day. You do what you gotta do. Would I be the a-hole for not telling my siblings about their true paternity and taking everything in my dad's will? I, 38, have been no contact with my dad and 2 younger siblings for many years. My dad always treated me like crap because he was convinced that my mom cheated on him. Because she did, a lot, and trapped him into an awful marriage and that I was not biologically his. For my 13th birthday, my dad bought me a paternity test, and even though the test results came back that I'm indeed his, he accused me, or my mother, of sleeping with a test guy. Lol. I've also done an ancestry DNA test and also matched with all his relatives, so I'm pretty sure that, unfortunately, he is my bi-dad. I've known for a long time that my younger sister was not my dad's. When I did my ancestry DNA test, my sister wanted to get one too. My mom freaked out, admitted her indiscretion, and begged me to convince my sister that it was a waste of money and that she could just have a copy of my results. I did, because I thought I was protecting her and she was going through a rough time at the time. I recently got a notification about an ancestry DNA match. I looked it up and it looks like my brother's ex-wife got one of the kits for both my brother's kids. And lo and behold, my brother's kids only seem to share relatives from my mom's side. FYI, my profile uses a screen name, so she would not have recognized who I was. My brother and sister have been really horrible to me for years. Comments about how I owed their dad for him putting a roof over my head as a child, and how dare I accept items from their grandmother's estate, etc. I put up with it for years because they are younger, and honestly not that bright. I thought that they'd come around eventually. My dad made sure in a drunken fight with my mother to give me a copy of his will, still have it, so that I knew that he had put a stipulation in there about his estate being divided amongst his biological children. I know that he has not changed his will since, because his mental capacity has changed. Too much info. Would I be the a-hole if I did not tell my siblings and just let this play out at the will reading? Take everything and kick them out of the family home. I would also be setting up funds for my nephew since my loser brother doesn't pay child support. My husband thinks that this is stooping to their level, as they both rely on his estate currently for survival, so this will ruin them. But they have no education or way to support themselves currently. But I kinda want to stoop. Now for the top comments. Stoop, stoop, stoop. Seriously though, not stay home. Your half-siblings sound like entitled pieces of work. Also, you didn't write the will, so I think I just have to leave it as it is and it will stoop itself. My sister will likely be the one to push the DNA test. She's threatened this before, in an effort to increase her share and cut me out. So she doesn't know about your DNA test? Then I would sit on it. And when she pushes for a DNA test, agree as long as everyone is tested. A great example, fool around and find out. She believes that at 13 I slept with a test guy to get a favorable result. If you don't follow the will, you would be the a-hole for not following his wishes. He knew what he was doing by specifically adding biological. Technically, I think this is the exact opposite of what he thought he was doing, since it sounds like the dad thought Opie wasn't his bio kid, but the others were, when in reality the opposite is true. But yeah, follow the will and take everything. Your siblings sound like a-holes. Not an a-hole considering how they treated you. If this was only about your father and they hadn't treated you any differently, then you would be in the wrong. They both rely on his estate currently for survival, so this will ruin them. They have no education or way to support themselves currently. How is this your fault? What would they do if the roles were reversed? The way I look at it, they already showed me what they would do. Currently, they think that I am the one that is not biologically his, and they used this to keep me from acquiring items my grandmother left for me when she passed. Not overly valuable, but sentimental to me. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not coming back home when I got kicked out? I, 20 female, am living with my parents and trying to move out for the past year, but have never found a good time to tell them. They were too busy or not happy that day. I'm the second oldest of 7. I work 50 hours, take care of the kids in the home, and try to have friends. I argue with them when I want to go out, don't want to do something with family, or want to be alone. 1 week was exhausting for me and I needed a break. They wanted me to work out with them, something we like to do as a family. I was sore already and was going to work all weekend, so I said no. They said I had no choice, and I said, no, I do have a choice. I'm not doing it. My mom took my phone, which I own completely, and said I was disrespectful, disobedient, and have to do what they say because they're my parents. When they finished working out, they talked to me. I said the same thing. They still weren't happy and said I was disrespectful and I have to listen to them. I just kept saying the same thing. When my older brother, 27, got there, I told him what happened, and when the argument started back up, he jumped in and called them out for not respecting what I asked and just stood for me. That made them madder. They said I had no place saying anything and told him to leave and not come back. My dad turned to me, asking me why he would do that, and I said he repeated everything I already told you and you guys weren't listening to me, so he stood up for me. My dad grabbed my keys, threw them at me, and said, "You don't have a job. I work for them. And don't come home." Then he left. My mom wouldn't let me leave and took my keys from me. I owned this vehicle completely. So I called my brother from my work phone, asked him to pick me up, and I left. We went to his place and were there for a few hours when my mom showed up and begged me to come back home. At first I said no, that I was kicked out. But she kept begging, so I said I'll only come to get my phone and my keys, but I'm not staying because Dad kicked me out. We argued more, but finally she agreed. I got my things and went to leave, but my mom stopped me to ask for 5 more minutes to talk, and I said no, that's not what we had agreed on, and she kept begging, so I agreed. We talked but went back to the same argument and I spent an hour trying to leave. I had tried to walk out, but she blocked me. Then my dad came out and told me I can't leave. I said, "Yes, I can. You kicked me out." He then apologized and said, "I didn't mean it. I was mad at your brother." I said, "That's not okay. I really don't want to stay here anymore. I'm gonna go and I'll come back to talk in a couple days. I need to think and figure out exactly what I want." Finally, my dad let me go. But then the next day was my little brother's baseball game and I went to watch. Both my parents talked to me. My dad said, "I understand if you don't want to work for me anymore. I don't blame you, but please think about it." My mom begged me to come back home, and I said I don't think that's going to happen. I really need space. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to go back at all? Add on. I have been staying with my brother and I'm actively applying to apartments. Not an a-hole. Move out. This. Also, parentification is illegal. If they are turning you into a third parent for your siblings, then that just isn't right. It's mistreatment, but oftentimes isn't illegal. Illegal and immoral aren't the same. She's 20, not 6. If she was 6 and being left to care for the kids, then yes, it's illegal, but not when she's older. Well, your parents are toxic AF, and you need to get far away and find a job that is not working for them. Also, if you were their employee and had been getting paid legally, not under the table, then you being fired could be improper dismissal potentially based on labor laws where you live, allowing you to go to a labor board over it. Completely agree. Also, they may need OP to actually do the work. Also, all that free childcare they lost. OP is just being used and is far better off without them. You need to move out on your own. These are control tactics they're using which is fairly abusive and not okay. They're not respecting your boundaries. and they're not treating you like an adult. It's time to move out and figure out what kind of relationship you want with them. I would strongly advise not going over to their home anymore and stick to neutral territory where they cannot take your keys and phone. These people just want their slave back. She needs to move out, get a job that has nothing to do with her family, and leave them to sort out their own babysitting. Jesus, of course not today, Hull. They stole your property, try to physically prevent you from leaving, also a crime, and sound toxic, controlling, and possibly abusive. I'm really happy you got out safe and got your belongings back, but please do not go back to that house. It won't be safe, and since you've already left once, they may very well be more severe in their effort to prevent you from leaving next time. Stay with your brother, get a new job, and enjoy your freedom now that you're out and safe. There are also a number of support subs here that can be helpful with what you're going through. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not paying off my sister's BMW? About a year ago, my sister Gina, 23, bought a BMW she couldn't afford. She also had a bad habit of getting expensive items for TikTok and Instagram posts. I lucked out of hitting the jackpot with my wife and job. My wife typically makes a lot more money than I do, but she's currently on bed rest with a difficult pregnancy. It has been almost 2 months, but it will last the rest of the pregnancy. She has inherited aplastic anemia. While we have some savings, we live within our means with 2 paid-off cars and a nice 2-bedroom house. My dad, who speaks English as a second language, calls me upset that someone is trying to steal my sister's car. It was being repossessed for non-payment. I called my sister and asked what was going on. She first said she was 1 month behind, then admitted she was 3 months behind. She said she would have the money next week. She never called a car dealership to follow up, and the car was sold, sticking my sister with the remaining balance. Now she doesn't have a car and is driving my dad's older Jeep. I have even offered my car for her to use, but it's a Toyota and she rejected it. Now she's been harassing both my parents because she says I could have lent her the money, and my wife is lazy about her pregnancy. Now I'm getting unwanted advice about getting my wife back to work since she has worked from home previously. My wife is sick. I'm already worried about her health. She's losing weight around 6 months and isn't eating well. My sister has told me our mom had 7 kids, and my wife is milking the pregnancy for attention. At this point, I cut my sister off and stopped going to my parents' house where she lives. A few family members think I am the a-hole for not helping my sister financially with a car that she couldn't afford in the first place. Now for the comments. Your sister sounds like an entitled brat. You do not owe her anything. Her lack of concern for your wife and her unborn niece/nephew is incorrigible. She's an adult now and needs to start acting like one. OP, you need to put your wife and unborn child first. That means blocking all of them completely until, well, after your wife and newborn have had plenty of time to recuperate. Not today, Hall, obviously. How does your sister have the nerve to suggest that your pregnant wife should work so you can give your sister money? Just curious, how many hours per week your non-pregnant sister is working? If she needs money, perhaps she should get a second job. She's in school and works in a high-end store part-time. Great. She should live within her means and not try to make her family into wage slaves. Not today, Hall. You're a good person for sticking by your wife, and your sister is an entitled child who is in for a rude awakening. When adults buy things they cannot afford subsequent payments on, this is what happens. The family members who are behind her are enabling this entitlement. I've been with my wife since college, and it has always pissed my sister off, and some other family members, that my wife hasn't learned Spanish in the 7 years we have been together. My wife is also English, so her English is not always the same as Americans. My mom doesn't speak any English, so it's just been somewhat difficult for my wife to communicate with everyone. Translation can be messy. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for saying my brother's girlfriend isn't welcome here because she was pushy about my wife breastfeeding? I'll keep this short and simple. My wife has pernicious anemia and her body can't absorb vitamin B12. Even if she ate a bunch of food full of B12 or an entire bottle of supplements, it would make no difference. She has regular B12 injections to make sure she gets enough. My wife is pregnant. She's being monitored closely because lack of B12 is not good for the baby or for her. Her due date is in 20 days, and her doctors have told her under no circumstances is she to breastfeed. They say the lack of B12 will cause harm to our baby. The situation. When we announced her pregnancy, my brother's girlfriend wouldn't stop asking my wife about breastfeeding. At first, she was not bad. She gave my wife 2 books about it, But she would not stop bringing it up when my wife explained she can't breastfeed because of her condition. She invited my wife to a support group for moms who breastfeed, called Triple L or something like that. She went as far as to give my wife's email to other moms she knows, so they could email my wife about why she should breastfeed, and give my wife printouts from the internet about a woman who had B12 deficiency and breastfed. That woman was a vegan, and she didn't have my wife's medical condition. My sister-in-law also apparently solicited for milk donations in our behalf, even though we never asked for it. We wouldn't take milk from random strangers. There's no regulations or checks and balances where we live, so we have no idea what was in the milk. We asked her to stop it, but she wouldn't. The last straw was her having these donors emailing my wife after we asked my sister-in-law to stop. I understand she's passionate about it, and it worked for her with my nephew. But she isn't a doctor, and neither are the people emailing my wife. Since she wouldn't stop when I asked her, I told her she's no longer welcome in our home. My wife made a new email address, and we are going to listen to actual doctors. My brother's girlfriend actually said the doctors don't know what they are talking about, which is so out there I can't even. My brother reamed me out for speaking to his girlfriend harshly, and he says I owe her an apology. For the record, he backs up what she says, and thinks my wife needs to listen to her. His girlfriend is mad too and thinks our baby is unfortunate because of all this. I get she was trying to help, but she went way over the top in my humble opinion. Not today, Hall. A baby with severe B12 deficiency can have permanent brain damage. I would trust the doctors who understand your wife's condition more than a bunch of random internet articles. What you said is exactly what the doctor said. They gave examples of case studies for us to read to make sure we understood, and they are meticulous about my wife's blood work to ensure all is well. The last thing we want is a problem like you described. I had to leave a breastfeeding support group for this reason. Lactivists telling a mom to ignore doctors and not give formula to a baby with a jaundice, which also cause brain damage. They're just so awful. I hope your wife is okay emotionally, and you both know formula-fed babies are perfect too. She wasn't trying to help. She was trying to control your wife. I wouldn't speak to her again until she apologized for violating your privacy and emotionally mistreating your wife. My wife breastfed and joined a bunch of groups. Even she said it gets cult-like with the mothers in these groups. You guys have to do what's best for you and your baby. As long as the baby's healthy, breast or formula, you guys do you. I noticed the changes when my sister-in-law had my nephew. She breastfed him until the age he was old enough for school, but he was homeschooled so it worked out for them. She learned lots of things from these other moms that my wife and me disagree with actually. Yeah, my wife and I agreed as long as our daughter was getting the nutrients she needed to thrive, she would breastfeed. My daughter stayed on a boob a little longer than expected, right around 2. But once she found pizza, she no longer wanted breast milk. Lol. Triple L is La Leche League, and they can be militant. I personally have seen them harass parents for buying formula and do nurse-ins at the offices of doctors who have the gall to offer a quieter and more comfortable nursing area than a waiting room full of sick kids. You're not day hall by any means. You're standing up and protecting your spouse and soon-to-be little one during a very emotional and scary time. Fed is best. 100% doesn't matter if it's breast or formula. Fed is best. Am I the a-hole for snapping at my mother for asking me to cancel my trip to babysit my nephew? My 19 female cousin, 28 female, gave birth to a baby boy 4 months ago. For 2 months, she's been dumping my nephew at our house to babysit him because she needs a job as soon as she can start working again. Next week, I have to go for a 5-day trip to a city where I'm starting university in a few weeks to set up my room in my friend's apartment. It's new, and I already called people from the internet provider we'll be using to help set up the router and TV. I'll be alone for the whole duration of my stay, and the city is 6 hours away, so nobody can help me out. My mother asked me this morning to babysit my nephew next Tuesday as I'd already be at the city because my cousin has 2 job interviews. I asked the mandatory, am I really the only person who can look after him? And to my shock, no. Turns out my older sister, my cousin's husband, and her in-laws are all available. I laughed in her face and told her no way am I doing that. And she started screaming at me for being an ungrateful and irresponsible brat. I snapped and told her I don't care to look after someone else's kid, and that I have better things to do than babysit a 4-month-old whose own dad is available to care for him. My mother then argued it's his only day off, and her in-laws are conservative and think the father shouldn't be bathing a kid or changing his diaper and that I should be compassionate because of that. I just told her I don't give a crap and that's not my business. She later tried asking nicely for me to move my trip and I snapped, again, saying I don't care for them enough to do that. Am I the a-hole? Edit. People told me he's actually my second cousin, not nephew, so thank you for correcting me. Also to add, this isn't the first time I've been asked to sacrifice something for the family. To explain why I snapped almost immediately. Now for the top comments. So your mom thinks being conservative means a husband and father can be irresponsible, and a random teenage cousin should cancel plans to watch a kid that isn't theirs? Gross. Stand your ground. Not an a-hole. Husband is conservative, as in conserving his energy. Right. LMFAO. Lazy idiot. Like, sir, that is your kid. Not an a-hole. Guess what? He doesn't get days off being a dad. Not your baby, not your problem. Make it clear that if you are going to be expected to take care of the baby, then they can expect you will never be available. Don't ask if there's anyone else available to watch the baby anymore, because they'll just lie to you since now they know you have a spine. If they are conservative, then as a grandmother, it is mother-in-law and your mother's duty to help her raise that child. A mother's job is never done. Their views, not mine. Not an a-hole. I'm curious to what your mother's argument are against your sister, your mother or your cousin's mother-in-law watching that child. My sister is bipolar and in a depression episode, which I understand. She avoided saying why the in-laws can't. My mom can't because she works as a doctor and has long hours. To me, it sounds there are still enough adults who could look after the children. It is also very unconservative that your cousin's husband doesn't provide enough so the cousin didn't have to work and didn't need the interviews. In turn, he needs to be unconservative enough to parent his child. It seems likely that your mother is volunteering for you these duties more so than them asking, despite having other people who can watch the kid. Actually, you just pointed it out to me. I enrolled in a university for architecture in a sexist country. I don't and never wanted kids, and I look unconventional. My extended family always filled my parents' heads with how I should have been taught conservative values, even though my parents aren't conservative. They might be trying to get me to like kids enough to have my own one day. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for reporting my daughter's car missing after her stepbrother took it without permission? I got my daughter, 17, a new car 2 months ago. Her stepbrother, 19, has gone crazy about it ever since and has been attempting to drive it. But my daughter made it clear she doesn't want him to. He'd refer to it as our car and would get mad when my daughter decorates it with pink and add teddy bears and necklaces as decoration. He'd get angry and say that she was ruining their car and embarrassing in front of his friends, although she never let him get inside of it. I asked my husband to talk to his son, but he said that my daughter and I need to chill. Fast forward to this past Friday. My daughter called me at work saying her stepbrother took her car while she was upstairs after he demanded the keys and she refused. I called his phone, but he didn't respond. I called my husband and told him what happened. I told him that he needed to go bring the car back or I'd have to call the police. He called his son, then called me back saying his son was just taking it to go to the movies with his friends and will bring it back at 9 p.m. I couldn't wait, but I wanted him one more time to bring it back, but he stalled. So I called the police and reported it stolen. My stepson was picked up from his location and brought into the local police station. We got the car back, but it was a mess. The decorations and toys in it were gone. My daughter didn't stop crying about it. My husband blew up at me on the phone for calling the police on his son and causing him to spend the night there. They both came home the next day, and a huge argument ensued with my husband, saying I made a mistake reporting the car missing, and said that I escalated the situation and that I was the one who created it, and should have got his son a similar car or at least told my daughter to share. Otherwise, we wouldn't be dealing with his son's temper tantrums. The house has been full of tension since then and everyone is just mad at each other. I didn't want police involvement, but seeing my daughter cry, I just couldn't take it. Now for the top comments. This is weird. For the simple act of reporting the car stolen when it was in fact stolen, not the a-hole. But for marrying and subjecting yourself, and more importantly your daughter, to the environment created by your husband and stepson, you're the a-hole. Get a divorce. and get them as far away from your daughter as possible. Exactly what I was gonna say. Right. The fact that the husband is gaslighting her is crazy. If he wants his son to have a car, him and his son's mother can buy it. It's not an OP to buy her husband's adult son a car. We now know where his son got his entitlement behavior from. Not a hole. You told your husband to get the car back or you'd call the police. He and his son ignored you. You called the police. No one should be surprised. Why doesn't your husband buy son a car? It sounds like your finances are separated. Does the kid work, go to school, do anything responsible with his life? Well, not exactly. He told her he went to the movies and would bring it back about 9. In other words, OP doesn't matter. Her threats weren't taken seriously and he got called on it. Who does the father think he is, degrading OP's instructions on what to do with a car that isn't his? I don't know why they think they have the rights to this car. I don't know why they haven't done the obvious thing and get one themselves, but I'm wary of this whole dynamic. Man, he's 19. He's a legal adult, and he stole from his minor step sibling. Man needs to man up and figure out his tantrum nonsense isn't going to blow over so easily. And now he is on the hook for legal consequences because he is, in fact, a legal adult. Not the whole. OP's problems with her stepson will only escalate from here due to his entitlement and her husband's lack of accountability for him. They aren't 2 years old. What is mine is not yours. He is too old to go on a jealous rage and throw tantrums. Was he the kid that have to have his own present at someone else's birthday too? Next story. Am I the a-hole for being furious with my wife for returning our daughter's birthday gift? I, 40 male, and my wife, 41 female, have been married for 12 years. We have a daughter and son together. Our daughter is turning 8 and has been wanting a Nintendo Switch. My wife got laid off from her job and has become more frugal with money. I'm still working and I'm happy to provide for the family. I have no issue with saving money. We have been planning daughter's birthday party and my wife has made it clear that the budget is $50. She bought all the decorations from the dollar store, which I didn't see an issue with. She told my daughter she could only invite 5 of her friends as it would save money on the amount of food we would have to spend. I bought the cake and the pizza. Daughter told us that she wanted a Nintendo Switch. My wife looked up the price for one and told her that it was too expensive, but I found a Switch online for a good price and purchased it. Her birthday party was this past weekend. She was so excited seeing that we got her a Switch. When everything calmed down, my wife started yelling at me for purchasing the console. I told her that I got the system for a good price. Daughter started school this year. When I picked her up from school, she went up to her bedroom to play with the Switch. That's when she starts crying and tells me the Switch was missing. I looked through her entire room and couldn't find it anywhere. My wife comes home handing me some money and tells me that she sold the Switch and got the money back. I started screaming at her for selling the Switch and upsetting our daughter. Her reasoning was that daughter wasn't letting brother use the console and that I spent money we didn't have. She packed a bag and is currently staying with her sister. I have purchased my daughter another Switch along with some games. Sister-in-law thinks I am being a horrible husband and not respecting my wife's decision on saving money. So to recap, you bought your daughter a gift that she wanted. Your wife threw a fit because you can't afford it. And instead of taking the issue out on you or temporarily making a budget change to recap the loss, though it seems money at the moment isn't a huge issue, she instead took it out on your daughter and returned a gift? Not the whole. Hard not the whole. Solely for the fact she took it out on her daughter. What do you mean money doesn't seem like a huge issue? They spend $50 on a birthday party. I'm still working and I'm happy to provide for the family. I have no issue with saving money. This indicates to me they aren't living paycheck to paycheck. A Switch costs anywhere from $150 to $250. And sure, that's not a small chunk of change, but it's not life-changing money. If they can afford to save, he's not doing something that indicates that they are going to go homeless if they buy their daughter a birthday present she really wants. Not the whole. Wife was so far out of line, I can't even. Returning the console on day 2 or 3? She was intent on punishing both you and your daughter, and there's really no excuse for what she did. Sure, you spent money she didn't want you to spend, but returning the 8-year-old's gift after it had been gifted was cruel. Your wife is clearly way more stressed about money than you are. Does she know something you don't? Are you implying she might have some secret debt? Might not be a secret, but something OP doesn't realize is as important as it actually is. Something like the difference of knowing a furnace being old and knowing a furnace will need replacing ASAP. Everyone sucks here. You two are married or divorced? Where's the communication? Why is your wife so paranoid about finances while you're seemingly blasé? Losing an income's not a small thing. And you don't say how much you make or where you live, just that you're working and happy to provide. You two need to be on the same page, and not going behind each other's backs because you think you're right and the other is wrong. Talk to your wife about her money concerns and the budget, and come to an agreement before making large purchases. I don't know what the good deal on the Switch was, but I expect it wasn't under $50 and would be surprised if you paid less than $200, honestly. Not to mention games. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my half-sister why my extended family were not at her birthday party? My half-sister is 7. She and I share the same dad but have different moms. My mom died when I was 5. My dad married my half-sibling's mom when I was 8. They have 4 kids together, ages 7, 5, 3, and 1. I have more family than they do. My mom came from a large family and had a lot of siblings, cousins, etc., as well as parents and grandparents who outlived her. So I have benefited from that. My dad came from a family who are in and out of jail, and he cut them out years ago. His wife is an orphan who was an only child and hasn't got a good relationship with her extended family. So my half-siblings have no extended family. It has been a point of contention between me and my dad. Me and his wife, my dad and my extended family, my dad's wife and my extended family. Dad thinks they should have expanded the family with my half-siblings. He believes they owed them a family. His wife believes the same. My extended family do not, and neither do I. The bad blood existed even before my half-siblings were born. Before she died, Mom left her parents and her sister in charge of certain things she wanted me to have and not my dad. Apparently, she told him that getting sick so young and knowing she would leave me when I was so little made her realize how anything could happen. And while she trusted my dad, if he remarried, she didn't want his future spouse left in charge of her keepsakes. She did not want some random woman in the future holding onto items she treasured and wanted me to have. My dad was so unhappy about it, and conflict arose there. I think all of this has contributed to my dad and his wife setting my half-siblings up with the expectation that my extended family would be theirs, and that they should be coming to stuff like birthday parties and sending them gifts and taking them out for day trips like they do with me. Dad told her he told my grandparents about her birthday party, and so she waited for them to show up. And when they didn't, she was upset. She had friends there and friends of the family, but not much in the way of family. She got upset and asked me why they didn't come. I had already voiced to my dad that he was being cruel, and I told his wife just as much, but they said it was my grandparents who were being cruel. So I decided to tell her that she was not related to my extended family. I explained to her that they didn't come because they are not friends of her parents, and they are not part of her or their family. I explained how they are my family because of my mom and how that worked. She looked so surprised to realize it didn't make them her family too, and hurt, because she realized she was lied to about having lots of family. My dad and his wife were so angry at me for talking to her about it. They said at 17 I should have been more sensible to know it wasn't my place and was cruel to leave her with. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. They are being cruel to her by setting up this family dynamic. While telling her the truth hurt her feelings in the moment, it was a more loving thing to do. If you want to comfort your sister, tell her that while your extended family may be different, that you'll always be her family, that you and her parents love her and that she'll always have family around her even if they look a little different than yours. Tell her that love isn't measured in number of people giving it, but by the quality of love given. And as for your dad, while I understand that it's hurt that it wasn't kept in the fold after your mom's death, it sounds like his bitterness about it is leaking into what he's telling your sister. She's only 7 and shouldn't be used as a guilt pawn. He needs to work on building community and friendships that can replace bio family if he cares that badly about a network for her. But it sounds like he doesn't actually care about her having a family. He just cares about his hurt ego. Not the a-hole, assuming you told them gently and not in a mean or gloating way. It's a truth they need to understand. It may hurt a bit, but in the end, what would hurt more would be thinking that their own grandparents didn't like them. For some reason, your father seems to think that when he married your mother, her parents adopted him for life. While sometimes that kind of relationship will form, clearly your mom's parents don't feel the same way. And that's their right. He certainly can invite them to events with his new family, but it is up to them whether they want to take on the role that he wants them to take. He can't force it on them. The fact that your mother felt it was necessary to put her heirlooms in the hands of her family suggests that she may have had some inkling that your father would not be able to respect boundaries. And clearly she was right. And either way, he owes his kids the truth. I was as gentle as I could be while not being unclear about it, because I didn't want to add confusion to her on top of all the sadness.